Well, in other news,
You guys are so screwed now!
I'm just a civil servant.
Oh no, he Lance Eder retired.
Could this year get any fucking worse?
I'm Jazz Berganzo, and this is what's next. What's up, guys? Jazz Berganzo, what's next? Your evening edition, Saturday edition, weekend edition of What's Next? You guys are doing well today. Well, as we go into the 4th of July weekend, the long weekend, there was a plenty of goodness. Yes, there was a bonanza, a plethora of epic proportions, Supreme Court style. A masterpiece, a chef's kiss, a master class taught in savagery by one Clarence Thomas. You gotta love him. To quote one ESPN philosopher, you can't stop him, you can only hope to contain him. And they can't even do that. Here we go. This comes out of Breitbart. Supreme Court strikes down Biden's $430 billion student loan forgiveness plan. Yes, dementia tried to earmark $430 billion of your money and my money for this nonsensical bullshit. But the Supreme Court said, yeah, not having any of it. The Supreme Court struck down dementia student loan forgiveness program plan on Friday, ending a $430 billion debt write-off that critics say was a midterm election gimmick. Dementia knew was unconstitutional, but then again, he didn't give two fucks because, of course, he learned from the master himself, one Barack Obama. Breitbart News report last fall. Over the summer, Dementia announced his decision to forgive up to $20,000 in student debt for Americans making less than $125,000 a year. The president announced details of his plan on social media, describing it as a campaign promise to give working and middle-class families, the hell is that? Breathing room on student loans. Please. Dementia's killed off that. The plan was criticized for attempting to evade Congress's power to control spending and debts, for prioritizing elite college graduates over working class Americans who chose not to go to college, and for punishing those who paid off their loans or chose fields of study more likely to lead to finding good jobs. Earlier this month, Dementia vetoed a bipartisan bill that would have overturned his student loan forgiveness plan. Congress cannot muster the votes to override the veto because, of course, there were so many rhinos up Dementia's ass. There you go. But had expressed displeasure. Oh, they were upset. The court considered two cases. In the first, Department of Education versus Brown, the court decided that the plaintiffs who were not eligible for dementia student loan relief lacked standing to sue because they could not show that they had been harmed directly by it. But in the second, Biden versus Nebraska, the court held that the state of Nebraska has shown that Biden's plan would hurt Moella, its nonprofit student loan provider. Biden, through the Department of Education, sought to use emergency authority under the Health Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions HEROES Act, to extend temporary student loan relief forbearance into on-right student loan cancellation. But the court found that cancellation went much further than a mere waiver or a simple write-off, contemplated under law that amounted to usurping Congress's own fiscal powers. Chief Justice Roberts wrote the majority opinion, which split 6-3, of course, 6 Republican, and 3 dissenting Democrats. Of course, they were the knuckleheads. In one known passage, Roberts quoted then Speaker of the House, Nancy Bela Lugosi herself, who said at the time, dementia did not have the constitutional authority to cancel student loan debts unilaterally. We go from that to more chef's kiss. This comes out of Breitbart also. Victory speech at Supreme Court in Christian web designer case. Yes, sounds vaguely familiar to one Jack Phillips, but we'll talk about that later. Supreme Court held Friday that the state of Colorado, again, the same state with Jack Phillips, they cannot help themselves but sticking their ugly faces again, cannot force a website designer to create messages that support same-sex marriages against her religious beliefs, citing her rights under the First Amendment. in a case 303 versus Atlantis, was decided by a 6-3 majority, of course, 6 Republican, 3 Democrat. Free speech advocates such as civil libertarian and George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley hailed the ruling. It's a victory for free speech, 3 dissenting judges. The majority opinion was written by Justice Neil Gorsuch, who issued the Hobby Lobby decision as an appellate judge and often writes the court for the Court for Religious Liberty cases. This dissent was written by, of course, Justice Sonia Sotomayor. The case picks up with the argument on the First Amendment and same-sex marriage, where the court left off in the Masterpiece Cake Shop case of 2018, when the court decided with a Christian baker, of course, Jack Phillips, who did not want to prepare a cake for a same-sex wedding. That decision was largely on procedural grounds, and the court left open, yes, they punted on the question of whether the state could compel the baker's participation. In the issue of 303, slightly different, because it involves actual expression of words, and because the website designer was happy to work with the couples, just not to create messages that conflicted with their own Christian faith. Justice Neil Gorsuch reviewed the history of the court's jurisprudence on freedom of expression and association, and he wrote the decision. My thoughts. Again, 2 masterpieces, 2 chef's kiss decisions by the Supreme Court. You had the burning of Roe v. Wade last year. Then affirmative action. Then student loan forgiveness, poof. And now this. With this decision, first let's start with the student loan relief. Student loan relief to magically make it go away, $430 billion by using taxpayer federal money, using taxpayer money, your money and my money, pretty much us paying to make this go away when nothing's ever really gone away, is it? But then again, Dementia has no problem giving $150 billion to Ukraine, to Captain Sweatpants, because it's the right thing to do. Fucking clown. A fucking demented old clown. And then we have this decision regarding 303. Well, this should have been rectified. This should have been resolved against Jack Phillips and Masterpiece Cakes. He's worked with gay couples before in the past. He basically said, you have access to every single cake in my shop, but I will not create a cake specifically for this and write anything in regards to homosexuality because it goes against my deeply held religious beliefs. But yet, Scotus had the opportunity to squash that down. They had an opportunity to make this a nationwide that would reverberate for years to come, to say, hey, you of strong faith, your First Amendment rights are protected. That you will not be forced in a service, not the sale, a service that goes against your, again, deeply held religious beliefs. So now they corrected themselves in the 303 case. Now, this is not just a Colorado issue. Because again, like in the first case, Colorado just overstepped its bounds. Now, Colorado's involved again, and to quote Charlie Murphy, well, is habitual line stepper. And that's exactly what Colorado has been these last 2 cases. And of course, Phillips got sued a second time after the ruling by Scotus. So it wasn't over for him. Now we're going to see how things turn out in future cases when Johnny, the dressmaker, the tuxedo maker, says, you know what? Yeah, I'm not a fan of Johnny and Jim getting married. So, yeah, I can't, make the tuxes. Or a Muslim baker says, you know what? Yeah, can't do it. Which is funny because one Steven Crowder did a skit where he went into a Muslim bakery at the time of the whole Jack Phillips debacle and wanted a gay wedding cake done. They said no. He said, well, you got to do it. They said no, and that was the end of it. They were like, no, this is my shop. We have a right to refuse. We're refusing it. Go find somebody else. Which is what should have happened with Jack Phillips. But no, they had to drag it out to the point where now we're at a second case. This time it's a web designer. But this time, Scotus got it right. It's been a hell of a 48 hours with Scotus in its final day. And of course, the final day of Groomer Month. Mwah. And with that being said, I'm Jazz Berganzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more like this? Please leave a comment below. Like it, share, subscribe to it. Hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a thing. And we'll see you next time. Peace.